be clear where you stand in terms of this discussion, but what have you done to actually sort of let it be known how strongly you feel about the monarchy?
Well, I haven't done much except being part of an organisation that wants to get rid of the monarchy. And when I say get rid of the monarchy, I don't mean have a kind of Scandinavian thing where they're all pedalling around on bicycles. We want to get rid of them altogether. The whole lock, stock and barrel. And we also want to confiscate all their palaces, all their land and all the wealth, which we believe belongs to us anyway, because we paid it in the first place for it anyway.
Well, let me stop you there, Martin, because last week we asked you to show us exactly why you think the royal family has to go.
This is the East End, and this is where I live. Look at the state of it. Graffiti all over the walls, but no one wants to spend any money on a place like this. We've got high unemployment, a high crime rate, but nobody wants to do anything about it. Prince Charles visits places like this and says, "Oh, isn't it terrible?" Then he goes back to his palace, has a glass of sherry, and just forgets all about it. It's unbelievable as we approach the millennium that still in Britain there's actually people living on the streets or living in hostels. No money, no jobs, no homes. This is where the money should really be going.
Tell the royal family that the toilets need doing and this place is disgusting. The housing benefit pay 120 quid a week and we get no facilities at all.
I'm for kingdom come and I want to live, you know, as I deserve, like as a true son. You know, in a proper house and a garden.
When Windsor Palace burnt down, the Queen expected us to pay for it. And when we refused, she then charged us to go into her palaces. So the end result was she didn't have to put her hand into her pocket at all, which I think's a cheek.
If you don't have the royal family as a symbol of the nation, what would you have?
I think they do a lot for charity, yeah. Great British institution.
When I hear people saying that the royals do so much for charity, and they even pay their taxes now, it just makes me feel sick. This is St. James's Palace, one of Charles's little pads. But I know for a fact that he's got hundreds of rooms in there, all empty. And just down the road we've seen loads of homeless people. But you don't have to be Einstein to see the solution to that problem, do you?
Well, I may not be Einstein, but I have to say that some very good points raised there. But my big question, looking at that, is you take away the monarchy, how does it then work? I mean, it's not going to solve a lot of the problems, is it? Or is it, in your opinion, Martin?
Well, it's a question of priorities, isn't it? Either we go pouring money into these rich people who've got more money than you can even imagine, right? Or the money goes somewhere else, and it's our money anyway.
And Martin, I think it's minuscule what's actually spent on the monarchy. I mean, we never get a costing of what it costs to run Downing Street and the Foreign Office. That's very difficult to get hold of. We always have to hear what Buckingham Palace costs. But I think you're missing out a strata there. I mean, the problems you have in the East End, there are politicians. We know what some of us might think of politicians. But when only 33% or so of the people turn out in local elections, and sometimes not many more in general elections, they're the people that we should really be pushing to change things. As I said earlier, I think Charles is one of these people that realises that. So he uses his position, privileged or not, to bring these things to the attention of those people. So
it's just all a PR job. He couldn't care less about people in the East End and people in Brixton.
If he didn't care, he'd be off on his yacht, he'd be off riding every day.
That's all he does. He goes around hunting foxes, killing stags, going on holiday.
That's all you see the press showing you. I mean, this week he's been in Romania and Macedonia and Bulgaria. We would only know that. We only know that through the media.
What's he been doing in Romania, Macedonia, and where it is?
What a great ambassador for this country.
God, look, the state of it.
Of course. I mean, these people, really warm to him.
The geezer can hardly string a sentence together, and everything he says is nothing more than a load of reactionary claptrap anyway.
Who can't string a sentence together?
Prince Charles.
Oh, come on.
Can I say something, Martin? I don't think it's a... Have you ever been to America?
Yeah, I've been to America.
Well, America's the richest country in the world.
Yeah.
I lived in New York for 7 years. I went to school in New York. I've got news for you. What you saw in England is typical of America as well. America doesn't have a monarchy.
It's to be a republic.
So what you're saying is that there's poverty in countries regardless of whether there is a monarchy.
But America's the richest country in the world.
Okay, well, we've been asking for your calls this evening, and indeed we have John Temple on the line from London. Now, I also gather that John Temple is the secretary for a group called Republic. John, what would you like to say?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to remember that Charles is essentially a victim of an absurd system. I think that's how we really have to sum it all up. He didn't choose to be in the position he's in. I think he's demonstrated an element of spinelessness, really, in having lived under his mother's wing, you know, all the way through this period, you know, whilst he's been Prince of Wales. And I think there are times when I think he could have been a lot more forceful and stood up for himself and actually said that, right, I want to do this, I want to lead my life this way or whatever. And I think that could have marked certain turning points for him.
So do you believe that in fact his role is now redundant or not, John?
Well, I think if his mother lives long enough, I think he's going to obviously live in her shadow for probably the rest of his life. And I mean that's a personal crisis for himself. If he has that problem, that's his problem.
Okay, John, thank you very much for raising that issue. Now, if you at home want to call us and do what John did and discuss your view on air, then give us a call on 0403 546 222. Calls will cost you no more than 30 pence per minute, and we call you straight back. That number again, 0403 546 222. Now, you may remember, you may have been watching Panorama, A Life in Waiting, which was about Prince Charles and his life and the situation that the monarchy finds itself in at the moment. We are in the home of Margaret Tyler, which is a veritable shrine to the royal family, it has to be said. You've got some wonderful bits and pieces. We spent a lot of time today looking at all your bits, and I'm just hoping nobody takes any of them home with them when they go. But John raised a very interesting point there. He said Prince Charles was born to that position. It's kind of not his fault. It could have been me, it could have been you. We would have had to, and he's in the shadow of his mother. I mean, Margaret, what do you think about that comment?
Well, yes, that's what I say. From day one, he seemed to have the weight of the world on his shoulders, even as a little boy. But when he married Diana, the day he married Diana, he looked at his mother. Everybody, the crowd was saying,